The sky above Earth darkened like an unspoken omen as the first of the Archean fleet appeared on the horizon. It was an event that no one had predicted. Not even the most advanced military minds of Earth could have anticipated the arrival of gods, these beings whose power seemed limitless. Their ships glowed with an otherworldly light, each one massive enough to dwarf the tallest skyscrapers, and they hovered silently above the cities. Their presence, a palpable weight in the atmosphere of the world, held its breath. The first message from the leader of the Archeans, Zephyr, was broadcast across every screen, every device, and it echoed in every language humans spoke. His voice was calm yet terrifyingly final. You have until the end of your moon cycle to surrender or face utter annihilation. Earth is ours to claim. The resistance will be crushed without question. This was not a negotiation. It was an ultimatum, a sentence delivered with the arrogance of someone who had never faced defeat. Fear gripped humanity's heart. Panic spread faster than a wildfire as governments scrambled to respond. The world's militaries were mobilized, but no one knew what kind of weaponry could challenge something like this. Weapons of mass destruction that had once seemed like humanity's greatest power suddenly seemed like toys in comparison. Earth had always fought its battles on its own terms. Now it was facing an enemy that was as alien as the very stars. Amidst the chaos, a small group of leaders and thinkers gathered in secret, their voices low and urgent. They knew this was the last chance for humanity to survive, and they could not afford mistakes. They spoke not of armies, but of something else, something that had always been buried beneath Earth's surface, its people and its history, a power more ancient than anything the Archeans could comprehend, something humanity had never fully understood, but instinctively felt the potential to wield. The artifact beneath the Earth's crust, buried for eons, was a weapon of unimaginable strength, and within it was humanity's only hope. Jeremiah Cortez, a brilliant scientist known for her work in quantum physics, had long been fascinated by Earth's mysterious past. It was during an excavation in an ancient city long forgotten that her team uncovered the first piece of the artifact. It was small, but it hummed with an energy that made her skin tingle with a mixture of awe and fear. They had no idea how it worked, only that it had the potential to change everything. Back in the capital's, world leaders and military officers argued over the best course of action. Some insisted on surrendering. They saw no way to fight against gods. Others suggested an all-out war with nuclear weapons. But the truth was that no one really understood the nature of their enemy. They had no way of knowing if such weapons would even work against beings that could bend reality itself. In the midst of this turmoil, Dr. Cortez and her team continued to study the artifact, its energy fluctuating and pulsing with a strange resonance. The more they uncovered, the more they realized that this was no ordinary relic. It was a key to a power far beyond human comprehension, a force that could change the fate of the world if they could figure out how to control it. The clock was ticking as Earth stood on the edge of annihilation. No one could predict how the coming days would unfold, but one thing was certain: humanity was about to face a test unlike any before. It would either rise to meet this challenge or fall into the darkness of the Archeans' unrelenting power. As the world teetered on the brink of destruction, humanity's focus shifted to the artifact buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. Its discovery had sparked a glimmer of hope in a sea of uncertainty. Jeremiah Cortez and her team were working around the clock to unlock its secrets, each passing day revealing new and increasingly strange properties. The artifact pulsed with an energy that seemed to resonate with the very core of the planet. Its presence was a mystery wrapped in ancient symbols no one could fully decipher, but it was clear that whatever power it contained was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The first test came unexpectedly. One evening when Cortez stood alone in the laboratory with the artifact in her hands, its glow now brighter than before. She had spent weeks studying it, carefully observing the fluctuations in its energy signature, trying to find a pattern, something that could give her a clue to its true nature. In a sudden moment of realization, she touched the artifact in a specific way. The energy surged through her body so violently she was thrown back against the lab's wall. Her mind spiraled into a vision, an image of distant stars and ancient beings looking down from above. But through it all, one truth became clear: the artifact was a conduit, a connection between humanity and something far greater than anything the Arctians could fathom. After the vision faded and her mind returned to reality, Dr. Cortez felt the weight of what she had experienced. She had glimpsed something beyond human understanding, a power that could rival the Arctians themselves. But what it meant for her and the rest of humanity was still uncertain. Her mind raced as she considered the implications of what she had learned. The power of the artifact could be the key to humanity's survival, but only if they could unlock its full potential. Meanwhile, across the globe, the human resistance had begun to organize in secret, taking shape in hidden bunkers and underground networks. Ordinary people, soldiers, scientists, teachers, farmers, began to show signs of strange new abilities. The powers were erratic at first, small bursts of energy or heightened senses, but as more humans made contact with the artifact's energy, these abilities began to grow in strength. Some could now manipulate light, others could generate bursts of raw energy. Still others discovered they could heal wounds in seconds. The resistance grew in both number and strength, but it became clear that their newfound powers were dangerous and unpredictable. Without control, these abilities could be as much a curse as a blessing. Training began immediately. Some of the most gifted individuals were brought in to learn how to harness their powers under the guidance of Dr. Cortez and the military leaders who had taken notice of her work. It was not just a matter of raw strength now. It was about precision, control, discipline. The minds of those who wielded these powers would be as important as the powers themselves. Despite their newfound abilities, the human resistance was still vastly outmatched by the Arctians. They had no ships, no armies capable of facing the gods' might, but they had something that the Arctians did not understand: unity, humanity's ability to adapt, to learn, to evolve in the face of impossible odds. The gods underestimated them, and it would be their greatest mistake. As the resistance worked to refine their abilities and develop strategies, the Arctians began their assault on Earth's major cities. Zephyr's forces descended upon the world with terrifying precision. Their ships began tearing through the skies as massive beams of energy cut through buildings and landscapes. The gods' message was clear: surrender or be destroyed. But for the first time since the Arctians arrived, humanity's response was not fear but defiance. They would not go quietly into the night. The first strike would be theirs. The resistance was ready. Across the world, scattered cells of humanity's finest minds and fiercest warriors had come together, united by a singular purpose: survival. What had begun as a desperate scramble to understand the artifact and its powers was now a coordinated, organized force. Under Dr. Maya Cortez's guidance, humanity had discovered something profound. Their strength lay not only in the artifact's energy, but in the people who wielded it. The resistance was not just a military force. It was a movement, a message to the Arctians that humanity would not bend, that they were not mere insects to be crushed underfoot. The first major operation was planned in secrecy, with the world's top strategists, former military leaders, and the most gifted among the powered resistance coming together in hidden underground command centers. The plan was risky, too risky, but humanity had little choice. Their goal was simple: strike at the Arctians' central command station, a massive fortress that orbited the Earth like an impenetrable moon. This station controlled not just the fleet's movements, but the varied forces the Arctians wielded to bend reality itself. Taking it out would send a powerful message, one that would shake the foundations of the gods' belief in their invincibility. Alex, one of the most gifted of the new powers humans had discovered, was chosen to lead the mission. His ability to channel raw energy into devastating blasts had proven crucial in smaller skirmishes, but this would be different. This would be the first true test of his power in a battle that could change everything. With a team of resistance soldiers and scientists at his side, Alex made his way into the heart of the operation. They had to move quickly and quietly, using their newfound powers to bypass the Arctians' defenses. For days, they infiltrated enemy territory, moving like shadows across the landscape, disrupting supply lines and planting explosive devices at strategic locations. They learned quickly how to use their abilities in tandem with their training. light manipulation to blind the gods' sensors, energy fields to shield against enemy fire, and superhuman agility to avoid detection. It wasn't perfect, and mistakes were made, but the team was growing stronger, learning to harness their powers more effectively with every mission. As they neared the central station, Alex could feel the weight of the operation bearing down on him. The stakes had never been higher. If they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. The Archons would not hesitate to wipe them out entirely. But as they approached the heart of the station, something unexpected happened. One of their own, a soldier named Terra, began to lose control of her powers. In a moment of panic, she unleashed a wave of energy so intense it rocked the entire team. The disruption alarmed the Archons' forces, and before they could recover, a wave of divine warriors appeared, their figures radiating an unholy glow. The resistance fought fiercely, but the gods' champions were overwhelming. Alex unleashed everything he had, blasts of concentrated energy that split the air, but even his might couldn't slow the oncoming wave. Terra, struggling to regain control, fought beside him, but the gods' forces seemed endless. Just when it seemed they were out of time, a new ally appeared, a powerful god who had secretly defected to their side. His name was Asgar, and his power was vast. He had seen enough of the Archons' cruelty, enough of their arrogance, and had turned his back on their empire. With his help, the tide of the battle began to turn. Asgar's intervention bought the team precious moments, but the real breakthrough came when Dr. Cortés activated a device they had hidden within the station, a beacon that could disrupt the Archons' control over reality itself. The resulting shockwave caused the gods' powers to destabilize, and for the first time since the invasion began, humanity struck a decisive blow. The gods' station began to crumble, and the resistance made their escape, their mission a resounding success. They had done the unthinkable. They had taken down one of the Archons' greatest assets. The victory, while costly, was a sign that humanity was not finished yet. The gods had underestimated them, and now they would learn the true strength of the human spirit. The victory was more than just a tactical success. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when united. The destruction of the Archon command station sent shockwaves across both Earth and the galaxy. For the first time since the invasion, the Archons' confidence faltered. They were no longer an unstoppable force, and they knew it. Zephyr, the leader of the gods, was in rage. His fleet had suffered its first significant loss, and his arrogance had been shaken. But it was not just anger that drove him. It was fear. The Archons had never encountered a species like humanity, a species that could adapt, fight back, and survive. The humans, emboldened by their success, wasted no time in capitalizing on their momentum. Their newfound powers, once unpredictable and unstable, were beginning to stabilize under the guidance of Dr. Cortés. The resistance grew stronger, more organized, and more determined. The world's remaining military forces joined the effort, fusing their technology with the artifact's mysterious energy. They had become something different now, not just a planet of survivors, but an emerging force in the galaxy, one that could threaten even the gods themselves. Alex, who had led the mission to destroy the command station, found himself at the center of it all. His power had grown, but so had the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The victory had been hard-won, and the losses were still fresh in his mind. He had watched friends fall in battle, and the faces of those he couldn't save haunted him. But in their memory, and in the face of the continuing threat, he pressed on. He couldn't afford to falter, not now. The Resistance's next move was risky. They knew the Archons would retaliate, and they knew that their next strike would likely be their last. Zephyr had promised to eradicate them, and he was sending his most powerful warriors to do just that. The Resistance had no illusions about their survival. This would be a battle for the very soul of Earth. In a bold maneuver, the Resistance struck at the heart of an Archon warship that had arrived in Earth's orbit, a massive vessel capable of annihilating entire cities with a single blast. The warship's appearance in the sky had been a clear signal. The gods were coming for them all. If they didn't act now, Earth would be crushed beneath the Arctians' might. The assault on the warship was nothing short of reckless. Alex, Dr. Cortez, and a handful of the most powerful resistance fighters infiltrated the massive ship, using their abilities to bypass security systems and break through the gods' defenses. Inside, they found themselves facing not just soldiers, but powerful, nearly immortal beings, warriors who had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, who had wiped out entire species without mercy. The resistance fighters fought with everything they had. Alex unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, tearing through the godly soldiers, while Terra, whose powers had now fully stabilized, created barriers of energy that protected the team from devastating blows. Dr. Cortez worked furiously to hack into the warship's systems, her mind racing as she searched for a weakness, a way to destabilize the ship from within. The battle raged on, fierce and unforgiving. Just when it seemed the resistance would be overwhelmed, the unexpected happened. Askar, the defector from the Archean ranks, appeared once more, but this time he was not alone. A small group of other disillusioned gods had joined him, turning against Zephyr's empire. Their combined might sent shockwaves through the enemy forces, and for the first time, the Archeans felt the sting of their own arrogance. Their empire was crumbling from within. With the help of their newfound allies, the resistance managed to sabotage the warship's core. As the ship began to disintegrate, they barely escaped with their lives. But the victory was monumental. The gods had lost a significant part of their fleet, and humanity had proved once again that they were more than just prey. They were a threat. The message was clear. Humanity was not going to be defeated. The Archeans' reign over Earth was coming to an end. The victory against the warship was a turning point in the war, but it was also a reminder of the cost of defiance. The resistance was battered, bruised, and stretched thin, but their resolve had never been stronger. The Archeans, for the first time since their arrival, felt vulnerable. Their pride had been wounded, and they realized that humanity was not just an insect to be crushed. They were a force to be reckoned with. But Zephyr was not one to retreat in the face of adversity. His rage was matched only by his thirst for vengeance, and he was preparing to unleash the full wrath of the Archean Empire on Earth. The resistance, now emboldened by their string of successes, did not sit idly by. They knew that the next phase of the war would determine the future of Earth. If they did not act swiftly and decisively, the Archeans would return with an unstoppable force. The time for small-scale guerrilla attacks was over. They had to strike at the heart of the empire itself, to cripple the gods' ability to control reality, to break their dominance once and for all. Dr. Cortez had spent countless hours poring over the artifact, studying its secrets, and finally, a breakthrough came. The energy it contained was not just a weapon. It was a conduit, a bridge to a deeper power, one that could challenge the Archeans on a cosmic scale. She had found a way to amplify its power, to create a device that could disrupt the gods' ability to manipulate reality itself. It was risky, dangerously so, but it was their best shot. The artifact, however, needed a human vessel to activate it. Someone with the right connection to the energy, someone who could channel its full force. Alex was the obvious choice. His powers had grown exponentially since the first battle, and his connection to the artifact was deeper than anyone else's. But even as Dr. Cortez explained the plan, Alex's heart weighed heavy. The device, once activated, would require a tremendous sacrifice. There was no guarantee it would work, and even if it did, there was no guarantee Alex would survive. But as he looked into the eyes of his comrades, their determination and trust in him steeled his resolve. This was their last chance. The resistance, now coordinated and stronger than ever, launched their most daring assault yet. The goal was to reach an ancient Archean stronghold, hidden in the farthest reaches of space, where the gods had hidden their most dangerous weapon, one that could erase entire worlds. This stronghold, with its impenetrable defenses, was where Zephyr had retreated to plan his final strike. It was there that the device would be activated, And it was there that the fate of Earth would be decided. The journey to the stronghold was long and treacherous. The Arctians, now fully aware of humanity's growing strength, had begun to fortify their defenses, sending waves of deadly ships to patrol the galaxy. The Resistance's fleet, a patchwork of stolen ships, hastily constructed vessels, and human ingenuity, was outmatched at every turn. But they were relentless, fighting every step of the way, knowing that each battle brought them closer to their ultimate goal. As they approached the stronghold, the enormity of their task became clear. The stronghold was a fortress like no other, a massive structure that seemed to bend the fabric of reality itself. The Resistance fighters could feel the oppressive weight of the god's power emanating from within its walls. It was a place of nightmares, where the Arcans had built their most devastating weapons and where they had perfected their manipulation of time and space. Alex's team, with the artifact now fully integrated into their ship, prepared for the final assault. The Resistance fighters knew that the outcome of this mission would shape the future of humanity, but as they faced the impossible odds, they also knew one thing. They had come too far to turn back. Earth's fate rested on their shoulders, and they would not surrender. Not now. Not ever. The final assault on the Arcan stronghold was imminent. The Resistance had gathered everything they had: fighters, ships, weapons, and the powerful artifact that held the potential to change the course of the war. The team was ready, but the weight of the task ahead pressed heavily on their minds. Each person knew that they might not return from this mission. The journey had already cost them too much, and the enemy they were about to face was beyond anything they had ever encountered. But they had no choice. This was the last chance to save Earth. As they approached the stronghold, the Resistance fleet was met with a blinding display of enemy fire. Zephyr, anticipating the attack, had deployed a fleet of colossal warships to defend the stronghold, each one bristling with devastating weaponry. The god's ships glowed with an otherworldly energy, their defenses near impenetrable. But humanity had something the Arcans didn't expect: the resolve to fight for everything they had. Alex stood at the helm of the lead ship, his heart pounding as he prepared for the battle that could determine humanity's survival. His powers had reached new heights, but even he knew they would need more than raw strength to succeed. It would take every ounce of strategy, every clever tactic they had learned from their victories, to breach the stronghold's defenses. The battle raged as the Resistance pushed forward. Alex's team, led by him, maneuvered through the massive space battle, dodging enemy fire, striking with precision, and breaking through the walls of defense. They used their powers together, weaving shields of energy around ships, creating bursts of light to disorient the god's forces, and firing precise blasts to disable key systems. Every Resistance fighter, empowered by the artifact's energy, pushed themselves beyond human limits, but the Arcans were relentless. Each moment brought them closer to the heart of the stronghold, but also closer to death. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Cortez remained focused on the task at hand. The device they had constructed, powered by the artifact, was ready to be activated. She and a small team of engineers boarded a covered ship that would carry them into the heart of the stronghold. It wasn't just a matter of breaching the gates. They needed to activate the device and channel its power into the god's core systems, crippling the very foundation of their control over the universe. The closer they got to the heart of the stronghold, the more intense the interference became. The Arctians' power warped the very fabric of space and time. Gravity shifted unpredictably, strange distortions twisted the world around them, and sudden bursts of energy crackled through the air like a storm. The further they pushed, the harder it became to maintain focus, but they pressed on, driven by the hope that their sacrifice would mean something. The device was their only hope, and they had to get it to the core, where it could do the most damage. As Alex led the charge, his powers now more refined and in tune with the artifact, he could sense something different, something dark. The very air around him seemed to hum with danger. The Arcans were preparing something that might be their final retaliation. He couldn't shake the feeling that Zephyr had been waiting for this moment, that the gods had a trap prepared, but there was no turning back. And then, just as the resistance fighters neared the core of the stronghold, they encountered the greatest of the Arcan warriors, Zephyr himself. The god appeared in a flash of light, his form towering and cloaked in pure energy, an embodiment of divine fury. His presence alone seemed to warp the universe around him, a force that could reshape reality with a thought. Alex's pulse quickened, knowing that this would be the true test of their strength. Zephyr's voice rang out, thunderous and all-consuming. "You have done well to make it this far, humans, but you will not prevail. You cannot defy the gods. You are nothing." Alex stood firm, his powers surging in response. "We are not nothing. We are the last stand of Earth." The battle was about to reach its climax. Every resistance fighter, every human who had fought to this point, would have to summon every ounce of strength they had. The fate of Earth, the fate of humanity, was hanging in the balance. The clash between Alex and Zephyr was like nothing humanity had ever witnessed. It wasn't just a battle of strength, it was a battle of wills, of ideologies, and of fates. The sky above the Arcan stronghold rippled with energy, warping with the intensity of their struggle. The fabric of space itself seemed to bend and twist, reacting to the immense power they unleashed. Alex could feel the sheer weight of Zephyr's presence. Every word the god spoke was like a thunderclap, and every movement seemed to shatter reality itself. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, tearing open as the god willed it. "You cannot win, human," Zephyr's voice boomed, filled with a godly calmness that made the air tremble. "You think you can challenge the power of the universe itself. You are nothing but insects." Alex's breath came in ragged gasps, his mind racing. He had faced powerful enemies before, but this was different. Zephyr was a god, a being who had reshaped galaxies, bent the laws of nature, and destroyed civilizations. And yet, Alex stood firm, his heart beating with a clarity he hadn't known before. The artifact in his chest pulsed with energy, sensing with his every thought, every feeling. For the first time, he understood. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for the future of humanity, for the very essence of what it meant to be human. "You may be powerful, Zephyr," Alex said, his voice steady despite the storm raging around them. "But we are not afraid of you. We fight for our right to live, to make our own choices. And that is something you will never understand." Zephyr's face twisted in fury, and with a wave of his hand, a massive shockwave of energy shot toward Alex. But Alex was faster. He reached deep within himself, tapping into the raw power of the artifact. With a burst of concentrated energy, he met Zephyr's attack head-on, the two forces colliding with a thunderous explosion that lit up the battlefield. The shockwave sent ripples through space, shaking the very foundation of the stronghold. Around them, the resistance continued its assault on the stronghold's defenses. Dr. Cortez and her team had made it to the core, and the device was ready to be activated. But even as they prepared to deliver the final blow, the pressure of Zephyr's assault weighed heavily on their every move. The device was their last hope, but its success depended on Alex and the rest of the team holding their ground. Alex's body crackled with energy, and the air around him began to warp with the sheer force of his powers. He could feel the power of the artifact surging through him, amplifying his strength, but also threatening to overwhelm him. He gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain control. Zephyr's attacks were relentless, his godly energy searing the air with every strike. But Alex had one advantage Zephyr could never understand: humanity's boundless will. "You may be gods," Alex said through clenched teeth, his hands crackling with energy. "But we are more than that. We are a people who never give up, and you will never understand what it means to lose." With that, Alex charged forward, gathering all the energy within him. The artifact in his chest pulsed with an intense, blinding light, amplifying his attack to an unimaginable level. The shockwave from his strike sent a wave of destruction across the stronghold, shattering the walls, destabilizing the energy fields that had protected the god's stronghold for eons. Zephyr, caught off guard, staggered back, his form flickering and wavering as the energy from Alex's attack began to tear through his defenses. The god's immortal body, once impervious to harm, began to crack, his form faltering as the power of the artifact broke through. His arrogance, his belief that the gods were invincible, faltered. "You cannot win," Zephyr spat, trying to steady himself. But even his godly strength was no match for the raw power of the artifact, the connection Alex had formed with humanity's will. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The artifact, now fully activated, released a pulse of energy that rippled through space, sending shockwaves across the galaxy. The gods' control over reality, over time and space, began to unravel. The strength of their empire, built on centuries of manipulation and dominance, cracked under the sheer weight of humanity's defiance. And in that moment, Alex knew they had won. The pulse of energy sent out by the artifact tore through the very fabric of the stronghold, unraveling the forces that had held the Arctians in their unassailable position for so long. Time itself seemed to bend, and reality rippled as Zephyr's divine form flickered, weakening under the weight of humanity's resolve. Alex stood at the center of it all, the artifact's energy surging through him in a torrent of raw power. He could feel the very essence of the universe shaking beneath him, the god's grip on reality loosening. But as the energy began to stabilize, something else happened. The stronghold, once a place of unshakable power, began to crumble. The walls cracked, and the sky above erupted into a chaotic storm of light and sound. The resistance, still battling outside, could see the godly stronghold destabilizing. Their victory was near, but the cost would be high. Zephyr's form flickered again, his eyes burning with fury. He was no longer the unshakable god he once was. His power had been disrupted, his dominion over space and time shattered by the energy of the artifact. But even now, in the face of defeat, he would not yield. He lashed out, sending waves of destructive energy toward Alex, trying to snuff out the human who had dared to challenge him. Alex felt the impact of the blast, but he was no longer the man he had once been. The artifact pulsed with a final, all-encompassing energy, and he harnessed it with all the strength he could muster. With a roar, he directed the power outward, pushing Zephyr's attack aside and sending the god staggering back. "You have lost," Alex said, his voice ringing out over the chaos. His body crackled with energy, his eyes alight with the power of the artifact. "You're not invincible, and you will never understand what it means to fight for something more than yourself." Zephyr's expression twisted with hatred, but in that moment, Alex knew the battle was already won. The god was weakening, his powers draining as the artifact's energy continued to destabilize his control over reality. Humanity had proven that they could stand against the gods, that they could fight back and win. And now, the gods would pay the price for their arrogance. The final blow came not from Alex alone, but from the combined will of the resistance. The artifact, fully activated, sent out one final surge of power, and the entire stronghold began to collapse in on itself. The god's empire, once invincible, was now on the verge of total collapse. The battle was over. The gods had been defeated. The pulse of energy reverberated through the galaxy, and across Earth, the sky seemed to clear. The storm of chaos that had enveloped their world began to fade, replaced by a calmness they had not felt in years. The Arctians' fleet, still orbiting Earth, faltered as their connection to the stronghold and their powers unraveled. The war was over. Humanity had won. But the victory came at a great cost. As the stronghold fell and the power of the gods waned, Alex collapsed to his knees, the energy of the artifact draining from his body. His vision blurred, his body weak from the strain of channeling the artifact's full potential. He had given everything, and now he was paying the price. Dr. Cortez, who had fought beside him to the end, rushed to his side. "Alex, no," she cried, but Alex managed a weak smile as he looked up at her. "We did it, Maya," he said softly. "We saved Earth." The Resistance, though battered and scarred, began to regroup. The gods were defeated, their empire broken, and Earth was free. The survivors gathered, their faces tired but resolute. Humanity had done the impossible. They had fought an empire of gods and emerged victorious. As the final remnants of the Arctians' forces retreated, the world began to rebuild. The artifact, now a symbol of humanity's strength and determination, was placed in the hands of those who would ensure its power was used for good. The human race, having faced annihilation and overcome it, now stood on the precipice of a new era. And as the dust settled, the story of Earth's last stand would become legend, a testament to the unyielding spirit of humanity, to their refusal to be cowed by gods, and to their unshakable will to fight for their future.